My name is Rachel Morgan. I'm 35. And last week, my parents skipped my son's 10th birthday because they were saving money. The next morning, I opened Facebook and saw them on livestream, smiling under pink balloons, handing out gifts to my sister's kids. My son whispered, "Guess they forgot me again." He didn't see me watching the screen, shaking. They thought I'd stay quiet, like always. But what they didn't know was, this time, I wasn't planning to cry. I was planning to end it. Before I continue, tell me where you're watching from. And hit like and subscribe if you've ever been betrayed by family. The kind of betrayal that doesn't come with screaming, just silence, excuses, and a smile that says, "You'll forgive us again." Because this isn't just a story about a missed birthday. It's about what finally broke me. I grew up in a yellow two-story house that always smelled like lemon polish and resentment. My mother, Helen, believed in appearances, matching curtains, polished shoes, and perfectly behaved daughters. Except, only one of us ever seemed perfect. Amber, the golden child with the dimpled smile and hair that caught the light just right. When we were kids, Mom used to host these Sunday brunches for her church friends. The table always looked like something from a lifestyle magazine: fruit trays, quiche, cinnamon rolls. Amber would walk around in one of Mom's old aprons, pretending to help. I'd actually be helping, burning my fingers on hot trays, cleaning up spills before anyone saw. But when the guests left, Mom would tell Amber, "You did such a good job today, sweetheart." I'd wait for my turn. It never came. Once, I tried to remind her, "I helped too, Mom." She didn't even look up. "Well, you're older. You're supposed to help." That line became the rhythm of my childhood. Supposed to. Dad Robert wasn't cruel. He was worse, indifferent. He existed in the spaces between Mom's sentences. The kind of man who'd nod through conversations, newspaper in hand, until Mom decided what he believed. When Amber wanted a puppy, she got it. When I asked for a new pair of sneakers, Dad said, "Ask your mother." I still remember my 9th birthday. Summer heat pressed against the windows, frosting melting off the cake we'd baked together, me and Mom, or rather, me and her recipe. Amber had her piano recital the same afternoon. Mom said they'd swing by after. They never did. I sat on the back steps with a plastic fork and one candle left burning. That was the day I learned the difference between forgotten and ignored. I didn't know it then, but that moment, me sitting alone with a half-melted cake, would replay itself years later. Through my son's eyes, as teenagers, Amber and I stopped pretending to be close. She dated the quarterback. I stayed home finishing art projects. When she got caught sneaking out, Mom grounded me for not keeping an eye on her. I laughed quietly, bitterly. I was used to being blamed for the weather by then. But no one prepares you for how those small, unfair moments pile up. They don't disappear, they fossilize. You carry them into adulthood like tiny stones in your pocket, too light to notice until one day, you're too heavy to move. When I met Mark, he didn't ask for explanations. He just listened. He had that kind of calm that made you believe life could be fair again. We met at a community art fair. He fixed the lighting for my booth when the circuit blew out. I joked, "You saved my display." He said, "Maybe I was supposed to." We married 3 years later in a small backyard ceremony. No big crowd, just laughter, sunlight, and people who actually wanted to be there. My parents came. Of course, Mom wore a pale pink dress and whispered to my aunt, "Simple wedding, but at least it's tidy." When Ethan was born, I thought maybe things would change. Grandparents soften, right? New beginnings, fresh slates. For a while, it almost seemed true. Mom visited at the hospital, holding Ethan like he was a delicate piece of china. She said, "He's got your nose," which was the closest thing to affection I'd heard from her in years. But when Amber had her first child, Chloe, everything shifted again. Suddenly, Mom was grandma of the year, weekly visits, matching outfits, family photo shoots. When she came to see Ethan, it was always on her way somewhere else. Once she stayed 15 minutes, leaving a grocery store toy still in the back. "Sorry, sweetie, I can't stay long. Chloe has ballet." Ethan didn't know the difference at first. Kids never do. He'd wave goodbye from the window and tell me, "Grandma's just busy." I nodded, though a small crack formed inside me every time. Mark saw it too. "You don't have to keep trying, Rach," he'd say. "You don't owe them another chance." But that's the thing about people who grew up begging for scraps of love. You start thinking those scraps are proof You're still worth something. One Thanksgiving, Amber and her family showed up 2 hours late. Mom still waited to serve dinner. We can't start without them, she said, setting down a fourth pie. When I brought out the mashed potatoes, she frowned. Oh, honey, maybe next time don't add garlic. Amber doesn't like that. I looked around the table, at my son's empty plate, at Mark quietly gripping his fork, and realized it was happening again. The same imbalance, just recycled through generations. Ethan was 8 then. He came up to me later, after dessert, holding his coloring book. Grandma said my turkey drawing was messy, he whispered. But Chloe's got a gold star. I told him stars were just stickers. But his eyes, those same gray eyes I see in the mirror, were already dimming. I didn't know it then, but that small moment of disappointment would come back to haunt me 2 years later on his 10th birthday. By the time Ethan turned 9, I had learned to manage my expectations. Every holiday, every family gathering came with a quiet rule. Don't expect much, and it won't hurt as badly. I'd bake, plan, decorate anyway, convincing myself this time might be different. The spring before his 10th birthday, I called Mom to invite her early, hoping to give her no excuse. I still remember how chirpy her voice was at first, then how it changed when I mentioned Ethan's party. Oh, sweetheart, I don't know, she said. Gas is expensive, and your father's back is acting up again. I could already picture her nail file in one hand, cordless phone balanced on her shoulder, excuses rehearsed. That's okay, I said quietly, because saying anything else would make me sound desperate. After we hung up, Mark found me standing in the kitchen, staring at nothing. Same story? He asked. I nodded. He sighed, drying his hands on a dish towel. Let's just make it a great day for him, with or without them. And we did. We planned everything with care. Ethan's favorite color green, his dinosaur theme, the scavenger hunt. He helped with the invites, drawing tiny T-Rexes next to each name. He even asked if we could send one to Grandma, just in case. I mailed it the next morning. 2 weeks before the party, Amber texted me. Hey, just checking what day again? I told her. She replied with a thumbs up emoji. That was it. No follow-up, no enthusiasm. Still, I clung to hope like I always did. Because that's what daughters like me do. We collect maybes and call them love. The morning of the party was perfect. Sunlight scattered through the trees. The air smelled like lemon frosting and grass. Mark had set up the little volcano cupcakes. Ethan's friends were running around the yard, laughing. He kept glancing at the street, waiting for the car that never came. By 3 o'clock, my gut already knew. But I smiled anyway. Because mothers do that. We protect the moment, even if it's killing us inside. When the last guest left, Ethan sat among the torn wrapping paper and balloons. Maybe Grandma got lost, he said, his voice small. I wanted to lie beautifully, but all I managed was, maybe. That night, after I tucked him in, I checked my phone. A text from Mom, sent hours earlier. We're skipping this year. Trying to save money. No apology. No promise to make it up to him. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Mark came up behind me, saw the message, and his jaw tightened. That's it, he said quietly. No more. I thought he meant no more texting, but he meant everything. The next morning, I woke to the sound of my phone buzzing. A Facebook notification. Your mom is live. It took me a second to register it. I clicked, and there she was. Helen Morgan, in her pastel dress, standing under a banner that read, Happy birthday, Chloe. The backyard was filled with pink balloons and sparkly streamers. 2 cakes. A bounce house. Presents stacked taller than the kids. Amber laughed into the camera. Dad stood behind her, filming. I froze. The sounds of laughter through the speaker were sharper than any scream. Mark walked in midstream and just stopped. Jesus, he whispered. He didn't say another word. He just turned off the TV, went to his desk, and started pulling out old bills, plumbing repairs, grocery money, the mortgage payment we'd helped them with last fall. He said one sentence, we're done funding our own heartbreak. At first, I tried to rationalize. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe Mom didn't realize how it looked. But the truth was simple. They had lied. Not to save money. To save face. I spent that night replaying every small humiliation, every forgotten birthday, every time they called Amber our pride and joy. All of it pointed to the same truth. Love, to them, was conditional, and I had finally failed the condition. Ethan didn't see the live stream. I deleted the notification before he could. But children have instincts sharper than we think. The next morning, he asked, "Mom, did Grandma forget again?" I lied because sometimes mercy wears the face of a lie. "She's just busy, honey." He nodded, but I saw at the quiet understanding that maybe love wasn't as safe as he believed. That was the moment I decided something had to change. Not for me, for him. I didn't know it yet, but this was the start of the unraveling, the moment a family's pattern of favoritism would finally break apart. I just didn't realize how loud it would get when the silence ended. The Monday after Ethan's party, the house felt heavier than usual. Balloons half deflated, paper streamers sagging like tired smiles. Ethan was quiet that morning, too quiet for a kid who just turned 10. He sat at the breakfast table, tracing circles on his plate with a spoon. "Want leftover cupcakes in your lunchbox?" I asked, trying to sound cheerful. He shrugged. "Maybe Grandma doesn't like dinosaurs." That hit harder than I expected. "Why would you think that?" He didn't answer. He just looked out the window, at the street where her car never showed up. Mark put his hand on my shoulder. "Don't," he whispered. "He's already figuring it out." By noon, I was cleaning up the last of the decorations when a knock came at the door. It was Mrs. Kent, our elderly neighbor with a knack for gossip and kindness in equal measure. She held her phone awkwardly. "Rachel, honey, I wasn't sure if you saw this," she said. "I didn't want you to find out from someone else." On her screen, frozen mid-laugh, was my mother. Helen stood behind a table, full of unicorn cakes and pink ribbons. "Happy birthday, Chloe," was printed across the bottom of the live stream. For a moment, everything around me blurred, the sound of wind chimes, the smell of frosting still clinging to the air. Mrs. Kent murmured something sympathetic, but I barely heard. That night, Mark didn't talk much. He poured himself a drink and sat at the kitchen table, receipts scattered around him like proof of betrayal. "She said they were broke," he muttered. "She said she couldn't even afford gas." He held up a bank statement, one of many where my mother's name appeared under small withdrawals, always the same pattern. Grocery help, utility bills, even a card charge at a gift shop 2 towns over. "She's been using the same card we gave her to cover emergencies," he said. "That unicorn cake probably went on our dime." My throat tightened. "Maybe she forgot to." He looked up sharply. "Rach, stop defending them." I couldn't. Not yet. Some part of me still believed there had to be an explanation, a misunderstanding, something human I could cling to. The next morning, while I was making coffee, a hard knock shook the front door. Mark froze mid-step. Ethan was upstairs getting ready for school. When I opened it, Dad was standing there. Robert Morgan, red-faced, voice already raised. "What the hell's going on with you two?" he demanded. "Your mother's in tears. You cut off the grocery money without a word." I blinked. "Dad, you showed up here to talk about money? You think we're made of it?" he barked. "We count on that help. Don't start acting self-righteous now." Mark appeared behind me, arms crossed. "You mean the money you used for Chloe's birthday bash?" Dad glared at him. "Watch your tone. You've always had a problem with respect." "Respect?" Mark snapped. "You lied to your own grandson and threw a party the next day. That's not respect. That's cruelty." Dad smirked. "Ethan doesn't need all that fuss. Boys grow up fine without cake and balloons. You people make everything dramatic." I felt something inside me crack. "You people?" I repeated softly. "We're your family, Dad." He scoffed. "You've always been sensitive, Rachel. You get that from your mother's side." When he turned and walked away, I didn't stop him. But Ethan had been standing at the top of the stairs the whole time. I saw his small fingers clutch the banister, his face pale. That night, he asked quietly, "Mom, why does Grandpa yell like that? Did I do something wrong?" I held him close. "No, baby. None of this is your fault." But I wasn't sure I believed myself. Because deep down, I still felt like that 9-year-old girl, with the melting cake waiting for an apology that would never come. For a few days, the silence from my parents was almost peaceful until it wasn't. Thursday morning, my phone buzzed. Non-stop, missed calls, voicemails, texts stacked like bricks. "We need to talk. You're being childish. Money shouldn't come between family." I deleted them all. But the last message stopped me cold. "Amber's in the hospital." My chest tightened. I called her immediately. She picked up on the second ring, her voice thin. "I'm okay," she whispered. "It's just heart palpitations. Stress," they said. I offered to visit, but she insisted she was home already. Then came the part that didn't make sense. "I wanted to come to Ethan's party," she said. "Mom told me you didn't want us there." "What?" I almost dropped the phone. "She said that?" Amber hesitated. "Yeah. She said you needed space, that you didn't want any noise or people showing up. So, I stayed home. I didn't want to make things worse." I sat on the edge of the couch, staring at the empty TV screen, hearing my mother's voice echoing through every memory. Sweet, calm, believable, the perfect manipulator. Amber sighed. When I saw the live stream the next day, I thought maybe she'd just changed her mind. I didn't know she lied to both of us. Something inside me turned over. She lied, Amber, again. And this time, it's about Ethan. There was silence on the other end. Then she whispered, "I know." We agreed to meet later that week, just to talk. When Friday came, I drove to the small coffee shop downtown, the one with cracked tiles and the smell of cinnamon. Amber was already there, hands wrapped around a paper cup, eyes swollen. She looked up at me like someone waking from a long dream. "Do you ever wonder if she loved either of us, or just the version she could control?" I didn't answer. Amber told me she'd gone over to Mom's the day before, still weak but determined. I asked her straight out, "Why didn't you go to Ethan's birthday?" Mom's answer? Calm as ever. "Because boys don't need that stuff. And Rachel always overdoes everything." Amber's voice shook when she said it. "She talked about you like you were a burden, Rach, like your love for your own kid was some kind of show." I felt something unfamiliar then, not sadness, not even anger. It was finality. The quiet click of a door closing. When I got home, Mark was waiting on the porch. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he said. "Worse," I replied. "I finally saw my mother." He didn't ask for details. He didn't need to. That night, while Ethan slept, we sat at the kitchen table, the same one where I'd once planned birthday decorations. Mark said softly, "You know they'll come back, right? They always do. They'll need money, or attention, or something." "I know," I said. "And this time, they'll find nothing waiting for them." He nodded. "Good." But the peace didn't last long. 3 days later, just after sunrise, a knock rattled the door again. Sharp, deliberate. Mark opened it before I could. On the porch stood Amber, eyes red, hands trembling. She held up her phone. "I recorded something," she said. In the short clip, Mom's voice was clear, casual, cruel. "She'll get over it," Helen said. "She always does. She needs us more than we need her." Amber's voice quivered. "You needed to hear it for yourself." I replayed it 3 times. Every word sliced deeper than the last. Mark exhaled, slow and steady. "So, what now?" I didn't answer right away. I walked to Ethan's room, looked at him sleeping, his small hands clutching his dinosaur plush. Then, I said the words that felt like both an ending and a beginning. "Now, we stop pretending we're the broken ones." It was raining the night everything finally broke. Not a light drizzle, but that kind of steady downpour that makes the world sound smaller, like the sky itself is tired. I sat on the couch, staring at the muted TV glow, listening to the rain hit the windows. Mark was upstairs putting Ethan to bed. The air smelled like wet pavement and old coffee. Then came the headlights cutting across the curtains. I stood, heart racing. I peeked through the blinds. Amber's car. My chest tightened. She stepped out, pulling her jacket over her head, holding something wrapped in a plastic grocery bag. When I opened the door, water poured from the porch roof like a curtain. Her hair was plastered to her face, her mascara smudged. "I shouldn't have come this late," she said. "But you need to hear this now." She handed me the bag. Inside was her phone, sealed in a Ziploc. She unlocked it, pulled up an audio file. "I recorded Mom," she whispered. "I didn't mean to, but she called while I was driving. She didn't know I hit record." Her voice cracked. "Just listen." I pressed play. Mom's voice came through soft, casual, like she was commenting on the weather. "I'm not apologizing for missing that boy's party. Rachel always made things bigger than they are. Ethan's fine. Some kids don't need as much attention. Amber, you know how she gets so emotional, always trying to prove she's the victim." Then laughter, light, airy. My father's voice in the background. "She'll calm down. She always does." The recording ended with the faint sound of a cup setting on a table. I didn't breathe for a full minute. The rain filled the silence. Amber looked at me, guilt heavy in her eyes. I wanted to believe them, Rach. I really did. But they don't even hear themselves anymore. I sat down slowly, the phone still in my hand. They've said worse before, I muttered. But this time, they said it about Ethan. Mark appeared at the top of the stairs, half in shadow. What's going on? I looked up at him, then back at Amber. Play it again. She did. And this time, I watched his face harden as every word poured out, each one another nail in the coffin of what we used to call family. When the recording ended, he walked over, took my hand, and said, "We're done. Officially. No calls, no visits, no explanations." Amber was crying now. I told them I'd bring the girls over next weekend. I can't do it. I can't pretend they're good people anymore. I shook my head. You don't owe them that. None of us do. For a while, we just sat there, the three of us, listening to the rain, the sound of a family coming undone. Finally, Amber whispered, "Do you think they'll ever change?" I thought about it. About the years of trying, the apologies that never came, the hollow holidays and fake smiles. "No," I said quietly. "But we can." Mark nodded. "Then let's start now." He got up, walked to the desk drawer, and pulled out the old credit card, the one Mom used to borrow for emergencies. He snapped it clean in half. The sound was small, but it felt seismic. Amber flinched at the sound. "You sure?" Mark met her eyes. "We've been sure for years. We just didn't want to admit it." Outside, thunder rolled. When Amber left that night, she hugged me tighter than she ever had. "You know what Mom said when I told her you were hurt?" She whispered. "What?" She said, "Rachel always wanted attention. Now she has it." I let out a sound, half laugh, half sob, then let her have her silence back. After she drove off, I stood by the window, watching the rain streak down the glass. Mark came behind me, wrapping his arms around my shoulders. "She'll call," he said. "Maybe tomorrow, maybe next week." "I know," I whispered, "but I won't answer." He pressed his chin against my hair. "Good." The next morning, the world looked washed clean. The air sharp, cold. I woke early. Checked my phone out of habit, no messages. Then, around 9, a notification blinked. Doorbell cam alert. I opened the feed. There she was, Helen Morgan, my mother, standing at the edge of the porch, hairpinned perfectly despite the wind. She looked older somehow, smaller. In her hand was a striped gift bag, blue and green. Ethan's favorite colors. She hesitated, glancing at the camera, eyes flicking toward the door as if testing the distance between guilt and courage. Then she set the bag down, turned, and walked away. No knock, no note. Mark came up behind me, saw the screen. "What's in it?" "I don't know," I said. He paused. "You going to open it?" I stared at the frozen image of her retreating figure. "No, I've already seen what's inside." He frowned. "What do you mean?" "Guilt," I said. "And that's not a gift I want." I closed the app and deleted the footage. For a long time, we just stood there, the morning sun bleeding through the curtains. The silence wasn't painful this time, it was powerful. That night, I tucked Ethan into bed. He clutched his dinosaur plush and looked up at me. "Mom, are Grandma and Grandpa still mad?" I smiled softly. "They're not mad, baby. They just don't know how to love right." He nodded slowly. "That's okay. We do." I kissed his forehead and turned off the light. As I walked down the hall, I realized something. I didn't feel empty anymore. The ache that used to live under my ribs was gone, replaced by something steady, something solid. It wasn't revenge. It was peace disguised as goodbye. The next few days passed in an eerie calm, like the pause between lightning and thunder. No calls, no texts, not even a guilt-soaked voicemail. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel the need to check my phone every hour. Silence, I learned, could be its own revenge. Helen had spent her whole life teaching me that power came from control, from who spoke last, from who made others feel small. But what she never understood was that control needs an audience, and I'd stopped playing my part. I didn't block her number. I didn't need to. Let her messages pile up in the void she created. Let her wonder if I was angry or broken, or both. The truth was simpler. I was done. Mark canceled the shared credit card, closed the automatic transfers. "If they call the bank," he said, "they'll find out faster than if they called us." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was fair. Amber kept her distance from them, too. She texted me a photo one night her daughters painting at the kitchen table, their hands messy with color. "We're good," the caption said. Finally good. And Ethan, he was changing in small, beautiful ways. He laughed louder, slept better. When his teacher emailed to say he'd drawn a comic about brave families who fight monsters, I smiled, because I knew exactly which monsters he meant. One evening, I opened the closet where I'd hidden the gift bag Helen left. The striped paper was still perfect, untouched. I thought about throwing it out, but instead, I tucked it deeper into the shadows. Not out of forgiveness, out of remembrance. Some ghosts don't need exorcising. They just need space to fade. Outside, the sky was turning pink. Ethan was in the yard with Mark, their laughter drifting through the open window. I leaned against the frame, feeling the warm air brush against my face. People talk about revenge like it's a grand act: fire, confrontation, collapse. But sometimes revenge is simply walking away without explaining yourself. Sometimes it's choosing peace while they drown in their own noise. They thought I'd cry. They thought I'd beg. They thought I'd come back. But I didn't. And maybe that's the cruelest revenge of all. When the person you tried to break learns how to live without you. If you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family, hit like and subscribe, because you're not alone. Sometimes the ones who should love us the most are the ones who teach us how to walk away. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's how we finally learn what love is supposed to feel like: quiet, safe, real. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And if you've ever had to rebuild your peace from the ashes of people you once called family, this story isn't over. Neither is yours.